What's going on, everybody? C4 here today, continuing with the 7-round mock draft series, the best mock drafts you're going to find here on YouTube. You don't even need me telling you that. And today, we're looking at the Oakland, soon-to-be Las Vegas Raiders and what they can do to really capitalize and try to get the most momentum back on their side to get themselves back to a Super Bowl. So, as it stands right now, I'm recording this on the 29th of March. There is big need for the Raiders to get a running back, and as of today, Lynch has yet to re-sign. So realistically, the way for my 7-round mock draft, my first round and second round picks, you can pretty much interchange those guys. I think I will. As it stands right now, I'll tell you when I do the mock draft. I have it in a different order, but the more I look at it right now, with Lynch not re-signing, that's up in the air. I think running back may be the place they go in the first round, and in case this works out, because I think the first round pick was a slight reach here in the first, and we'll just see. We'll see what happens when we get there. So the Raiders last year, 12-4 in the season, 6 overall offense, 26 ranked defense, which is kind of surprising because they did spend and invest fairly heavily on the defensive side of the ball last year. Most notably with adding Sean Smith in the secondary. But the MVP for me last season clearly was Derek Carr. I mean, he was in the MVP race up until he got injured, which was goddamn heartbreaking. As people know, I do enjoy watching the Raiders. Not a Raiders fan, I'm a fan of the Eagles. But I do, two teams that I enjoy watching that aren't the Philadelphia Eagles are the Pittsburgh Steelers and the Oakland Raiders. And it was pretty goddamn heartbreaking to see the Raiders go down the way they did. Because if they had Derek Carr, they legit had a shot to make that Super Bowl. I think their defense may have fell apart at the end against the top teams, which, I mean, I would like to at least see that. See if they could have performed. But they were a little bit disappointing last year. I don't think you're going to find too many Raider fans that were satisfied with the performance on the defense. But yeah, we'll see what happens here in this year and see if we can address a couple needs here on the defensive side of the ball. So their needs before free agency, I had inside linebacker, corner, or general defensive back, running back, and offensive tackle. They made 3 notable moves in free agency. They signed Cordero Patterson, 2-year, $8.5 million deal. I'm going to let it see. He'll come in and compete, be somewhat a gimmicky player, which he always has been. Maybe if he wants to follow what we did in a live stream, maybe move him to running back. He was terrifyingly good in Madden at the running back spot. We'll probably compete and take over for Andre Holmes as the third wide receiver there. They signed Jared Cook on a 2-year deal. I don't have the exact number. I couldn't find the exact figures on that deal. But Jared Cook, that's a solid tight end. Pairing him with Clyde Wolford, great 2 tight end set. Not a lot of run blocking there, but, just some more weapons to have. And then they signed Jelani Jenkins, coming over from the Miami Dolphins, longtime Florida Gator. Very good at Florida. He's one of the best linebackers I've ever seen in Florida. When he is healthy, he's a solid contributor as a linebacker. I'd say he's above average, actually, but it's just the fact that he's never healthy. He's really tough to rely on a guy like that. I assume his deal was fairly favorable for the team. So, I mean, overall, the Raiders had, they did lose a couple players in free agency, but I think for the most part, they're looking all right. So looking at their 2016 draft, getting a glimpse of what this front office does and thinks, and where I kind of agree or disagree with them. So last year, the first round, pick 14, they got Carl Joseph, the safety of West Virginia. A lot of people thought that was a reach because of Carl Joseph's injury at West Virginia, but if he didn't get injured, he was a top 20 pick. He's a dynamic safety. I'm pretty sure he had one hell of a rookie season, too. 60 tackles, 6 pass deflections, an interception. Carl Joseph is one of the future safeties. I think in this draft class, you're going to see the Carl Josephs and the Con O'Neills be regarded as all-pros for years to come, and give them a couple more seasons, and they'll get there. The second round, they get Jahad Ward, defensive end from Illinois. He was a solid prospect. I like that pick. Third round, they got Shalik Calhoun from Michigan State. I thought that was a little bit of a reach, personally. I was never really impressed with Shalik Calhoun. But he got, rotational guy. I think he had like 10 tackles last year. He's more of a depth move than anything. Then the fourth round, they got Connor Cook, the quarterback from Michigan State. Now, it was a little bit surprising, obviously, getting a quarterback like this, a guy like Connor Cook that was in the debate for a first round. And you're like, well, you got Derek Carr. Why do you need another quarterback? But then the value presents itself right here. In the fourth round, getting a guy that for quite some time before everyone figured out he was Bo Callahan from the movie Draft Day, he was considered to be first-round talent-level quarterback. And getting that in the fourth round, again, the Raiders are trying to set themselves up with a Jimmy Garoppolo situation, or maybe Connor Cook can get a couple spells here. He didn't look phenomenal in the playoff games, or the couple games, there are 2 games that he actually ended up playing here. But you never know. He may develop into something, and you can use him as trade bait, down the road. And the fifth round, they got DeAndre Washington, the running back from Texas Tech, and he had a role last year in last year's offense. There's pretty much a 3-headed running back at Tech, but he had about 600 total yards of offense, and I think that was great value pick there in the fifth round. Sixth round, they got Corey James, a linebacker from Colorado State. And in the 7th round, they got Vidal Alexander, the guard from LSU. Really like that pick. He was one of my top guards. I think he was number 3 or 4 when I ranked the interior offensive lineman last year in my rankings. And getting that in the 7th round, I'm pretty sure he saw us to the field a couple times. Started 5 games, getting that in the 7th round. There you go. Great value right there. So great pick for the Raiders. And I really like, obviously, the Raiders now under Reggie McKenzie. They're doing nice. They're doing big things. They're doing big things, bruh. All right? So let's go ahead and go into the full 7-round mock draft, which I need to give a couple minutes to kind of rearrange things here because just at the top of my head, I want to switch my 1st and 2nd round picks. So let me do that, and we'll jump right in. All right, so in the 1st round, pick 24. This is where I switched it. I am now selecting Christian McCaffrey, the running back from Stanford. We all saw the Christian McCaffrey connected for career mode, whatever the hell I called it, way back when Madden first came out. I am going to the Raiders. I still think that's a great fit. Obviously, like I said, as I'm recording this, Marshawn Lynch stuff has not resolved itself. I still think that door has yet to close, and I would not be surprised at all to see Marshawn Lynch come back while the Raiders are still in Oakland and try to help them out. But even with that, Marshawn Lynch, I don't necessarily know if you can put on the kind of workload that he had in Seattle. So you need that complementary type running back. And you may have that in the depth chart with a DeAndre Washington or, I can't remember the name of the other running back they had there. But I think for the most part, you got to kind of, at least you're doing mocks. I still think it's still a bit of a stretch to assume that Marshawn Lynch is going to come back. And I mean, you got DeAndre Washington, you got Jalen Richard was his name. Those guys there are solid, but, you can't pass on a guy like Christian McCaffrey. I personally believe that even though in my mock draft I had Dalvin Cook going higher, Christian McCaffrey I think is the better prospect. 4.48 40, had a good vertical, dominated, had some of the best shuttle drills ever at a combine, showing great athleticism, can play outside, can play probably a little bit of wide receiver. He's just a weapon, but I do believe NFL comparison, they get Tiki Barber. I don't quite see it. Like I said, I'm real set on my pro comparison of a Matt Forte, and that's the kind of guy that you need to have for Derek Carr. I don't think the Raiders really, you look at their offense last year, they ran the ball a lot and didn't get a whole lot of production at Latavius Murray for the amount of snaps they got. Sure, he got a lot of padded touchdown numbers, but I think this is a team that still wants to be a pass-first team, even though they ran the ball a lot. To have a dynamic playmaker that Murray didn't have the greatest set of hands on him, getting a guy like Christian McCaffrey could absolutely change the dynamic of that. The only problem really with this pick is I could see he's not too much different from what they have on the roster right now, but he's a better playmaker. And this is all about getting weapons for Derek Carr. This team is trying to reload and get themselves back into a very good, favorable spot to make a playoff run. So I think Christian McCaffrey in the 1st round. Again, have to wait and see what happens with Marshawn Lynch. But I think this would be an excellent pick for the Oakland Raiders. A superstar. Christian McCaffrey is going to be a superstar in this league. Calling it right now. So then jumping to the 2nd round, pick 56. The original guy had the 1st round. I think he's another guy. His tape looked inconsistent at times, but he did test better at the combine than some people expected. I personally overvalued it and saw him in the 1st round, but I could totally see him being in the 2nd round more so than Christian McCaffrey being in the 2nd round. So I just swapped that around, and we're going with Raekwon McMillan, the linebacker from Ohio State, 6'2", 240 pounds. NFL give it a pro comparison of Mason Foster, but I do think there are some issues with them, but they do need to really work on improving the linebacking core. I'm probably surprised to let Perry Riley go. He looked like he had a pretty solid season last year, but the current starting linebackers are Ben Healy and Tyrell Adams, Nerian Ball from Florida. I mean, those guys there aren't that great, even though Raekwon McMillan is not a finished product. Nowhere near it. He's athletic enough, a thumper enough, that he can come in, and I'm pretty sure Jack Del Rio will be able to maximize his strengths and get him on the field sooner than later. 4.6 140 at the combine, 23 reps on the bench press. Really, really good. But he's probably going to be a Sam for a 4-3 team. And, they kind of rotate, what their front is here. It's a fluid front. Like I said, they do a couple 3-4, do a little bit of 4-3, but I think Raekwon McMillan, I don't think he should be fit in a box just to purely play in a 4-3. I think he can play either or on the inside, even though NFL Network disagrees with that. But he'd be a great fit, and definitely would be an excellent linebacker, especially in the inside, to grab here in the 2nd round. Jumping to the 3rd round, pick 88. I'm selecting Cameron Sutton, the corner from Tennessee. Very good playmaker, very good fit. It seems like he'd fit the attitude of a Jack Del Rio defense. 5'11", 190 pounds, 4'5", 240 at the combine, 11 reps on the bench press. NFL comparison is B.W. Webb of the New Orleans Saints. I don't want to see. I mean, I see Cameron Sutton. He plays like a Ladarius Webb, who for a long time he eventually moved to safety last year. I think he's cut, but he was one of the top tackling corners. I think where was he? He was with Baltimore. Yeah. Ladarius Webb was one of the top tackling corners in the NFL for quite some time. And it's not he doesn't get exposed in coverage. I think that's what you give with Cameron Sutton. You want to hear top tackling corner, you figure, maybe he can play a little bit of safety. No, he's a man cover corner that I believe he likes to get involved in the run. Even though he's not the biggest guy, you figure guys that are 6'2", 210, 205, those kind of corners are the guys that get involved in the run game. But I think Cam Sutton, he plays very ferocious. As much as I hate people that play on the Volunteers, Sutton is a beast, man. Great leader, high character guy, and would be a phenomenal pick. To compare back there, right now, like I said, David Amerson's a good starter. Sean Smith looked a little bit suspect, but you guys assume he's your starter. And then outside of that, you got, Travis Carey as your depth. I think a guy like Cameron Sutton can come in and compete for some third cornerback on the outside depth chart for me, in my honest opinion. Down to the 4th round pick, 129. I think go with a guy that slipped a bit. I think this is he'll probably go in the 3rd round, but how my board did when I was doing my mock draft, he was still available and still presented tremendous value. So with the 4th round pick, 129, I'm going Marcus Williams, the safety from Utah, 6'1", 202 pounds, 4.5, 640. Put up, he jumped out of the goddamn park, had great vertical, great broad jump at the combine. NFL Pro comparison for him is Justin Simmons, who's kind of a depth player right now on the Denver Broncos, but he's a rookie, so hopefully he'll carve out a role once, TJ Ward and Darian Stewart, whichever one of those guys starts to slow down first, he'll probably overtake them. But Marcus Williams here, great value in the 4th round. Like I said, probably will go in the 3rd round, maybe a bit of a reach here in the 4th, but then again, it is a fairly strong safety class, and he may get lost, in the middle of everything. Right now at the safety spot, Reggie Nelson, he's getting out there in age. He's a starting free safety. I think Marcus Williams will translate mostly to a free safety role in the NFL. Strong safety, Carl Joseph, you're set. But getting a guy like Marcus Williams in the 4th round, that, obviously he's not going to start over Reggie Nelson. Reggie Nelson still has a little bit left in the tank, but having him be a depth, learn from a great veteran like Reggie Nelson, and then hopefully in 2018 maybe he can compete for that starting role, and then you can have a Marcus Williams, Carl Joseph safety pairing, which is very good, very youthful, with a lot of upside. Jumping to the 5th round pick, 168. I have them going with a right tackle, Justin Senior from Mississippi State, 6'5", 331 pounds, an eater of worlds, if you will. He's Canadian. Trust me, this guy's a monster. Going in, where is he from? The Mississippi? Well, did he? He didn't even go to Laval. How disrespectful. 5'5", or 5'5", 40-yard dash, which means absolutely nothing for an offensive lineman. But he has great length, 34-inch arms. He's a project type player. I think with him, maybe, could be a little bit of a reach, but I think with the upside here for a guy that has a lot of traits that you want to look for in a starting right tackle, where right tackle on the Raiders offensive line is the weak spot. Everything else on that offensive line is fairly strong. I think looking at it right now, maybe, the depth for who's going to take over for Donald Penn, because he's no spring chicken anymore, could be a concern. But the right tackle spot, you have Austin Howard, who's nothing special. You get Marshall Newhouse that came over from the Giants. He's nothing special. So I think to get a young guy there that can learn and get ready to eventually take over at the right tackle spot, especially in the 5th round, could be great value here for the Raiders. Unless they really want to maybe look at keeping a guy like Vidal Alexander as a tackle, which could very well be in the cards. But I think adding another name and getting some depth here in the mix in the 5th round in Justin Senior, my Canadian brethren, would be a very solid pick for them. Go to the 6th round, pick 208. I have them selecting a burner. Katie Cannon, the wide receiver from Baylor, 5'11", 185 pounds, 4'4", 140 at the combine, 37-inch vertical. Fairly impressive, man. This guy here, another, anytime you get a player from a Baylor offense, you're worried, just air raid, gimmicky, inflated stats. But, outside of that, you're not going to need him to come in and do very much else. You have Michael Crabtree and Amari Cooper going to be the starters. You figure they paid Cordero Patterson decent money. So he's just going to really come in and compete with Seth Roberts from snaps. Just have him go on streaks the entire time. Add a playmaker with speed. Throw one up to Al Davis. Get Al Davis. Just get a guy that is a straight burner, somewhat limited route tree, which, people said the same thing about Corey Coleman last year with the Cleveland Browns. And he looked like, when he was on the field, that he could adapt well. So I think Katie Cannon definitely has potential here in the 6th round to make the roster and compete and get some playing time. I very see it similar to what happened with Jalen Richard last season. Not high draft pick, was able to find a role in that offense and have a very productive season. I think you can get that kind of output and production from Katie Cannon here in the 6th round. Now they have 2 7th-round picks, so with pick 242 in the 7th round, I'm selecting Jack Tosho, the corner from NC State, 6 feet tall, 200 pounds again, 4'5", 440, 21 reps on the bench press. Another guy that's probably going to be classified as a defensive back, may view him as a safety, may view him as a corner, but I just think adding cornerback depth should be key here for the Oakland Raiders, as I'm not a huge fan. They get Dexter McDonald, Antonio Hamilton, Saquon Edwards, Kenneth Durden. Who are these guys? All right, bring some more competition there. And, be prepared, like I said, to find who can stick when Sean Smith's time does come to end-to-end. So I think in the 7th round, getting a flyer on a guy like Jack Toshu, who probably will end up coming in and just contributing on special teams, that ain't too bad of a pick. And then finishing it out here in the 7th round, pick 244, I'm going to Sean Bauer. Defensive end / linebacker from LSU, 6'5", 250 pounds, with almost 34-inch arms, 4'8", 240, 20 reps on the bench press, had a fairly impressive 60-yard shuttle. Again, a guy that's 100% developmental prospect, probably will end up on a practice squad somewhere, but he can play in a 4-3-3-4, incredibly versatile, could be defensive end. You can look at him competing with maybe a Danico Autry if he can bulk up, but I think he is best suited on the practice squad. But where they have, someone like, Jesus Christ. The defensive end that came, I can't believe I can't remember this. The defensive end that came over from the 49ers that has some off-field issues. Why can't I remember his name? Because he's always goddamn suspended. Aldon Smith is his name. He's kind of a similar role like that, similar build, and I think, that's the kind of playmakers that they want on Jack Del Rio's defense. So you get a guy like Deshaun Bauer, who things don't work out with Aldon Smith. You may have a project-type player that you can build and have that mold and get that guy, that big, lengthy edge rusher from either the linebacker spot, standing outside, or as a defensive end in a 4-3, depending on what kind of package you want to run. So there you go, guys. That is my 7th-round mock draft for the Oakland, soon-to-be Las Vegas Raiders. Let me know what you think about it in the comments section below, Raiders fans. This is your first time stopping by. Don't be afraid to hit that subscribe button. 100 likes on this video, and tomorrow we will release the Houston Texans 7th-round mock draft. So thank you guys for watching the best mock drafts that you're going to find here on YouTube. And until next time, it's C4 saying peace out.